Hi, my name's Andrew Wheeler, and welcome back to my YouTube channel. Today we're going to be doing or covering a couple of the modules, the bracket removal tool and the bleaching tray tool. Now these both come free, so once you bought the module, you can download these off Blender4Dental website. As in all of these videos, there is lots of tutorials on Blender4Dental website to cover it a bit more in depth. What I'm going to do is just sort of give you an overview so you can jump in and get started and picking out the relevant points. Um, it's been quite a busy time at the moment. The guys Blender4Dental have just released the Wax Up module, which is a brilliant module. I'm going to do some videos on it, but it's quite a comprehensive thing. This sort of puts Blender into a whole different sort of ball game, and becomes a 3D dental CAD platform that can be really utilized in a dental lab. It's got some great features. As I said, I'll go over this in the coming months to give you an idea of what it's got. I'll do an overview so you can just dip in and see whether it's the sort of thing that you might be interested in. Like all these videos, you do need a grounding, you do need an understanding of the model module, and you need to work through that before you start jumping into sort of a bit more complicated stuff like the Wax Up module. Having said that, let's get going. We'll start off with the bracket removal tool, and we'll then go on to the bleaching tray module. Okay, let's kick off with the bracket module. Now, as with most of the modules on Blender, there is a demo model to play around with. This one is slightly different from the others. This is not saved under an STL file. This is saved as a project file. It's a file that's been saved within Blender, so you can open it up within Blender. So if we go on to open, and then we have a hunt around there, you can see the file extension in the C drive, B4D brackets PC. We have this file here. Now if we open that up, we can see here we have the model with all the brackets on. So typically we will want to highlight all these brackets, remove them, and recontour the teeth, so we have a sort of a before model that we can then a lot of the time just want to do some bleaching on it to clear away the staining after the removal of the brackets. So what we've got here, there's a few little bits that I want to have a play with first. So you can see on this scan there's a few areas that might cause a few problems when we come to do the cut around the brackets. And the easiest way to get rid of these is to do the fast edit. So we'll go back into models, we'll scroll down, find the fast edit. So we'll highlight that, fast edit. We'll press C to bring up the circle. We'll resize that. And then we'll highlight the areas that we want to get rid of. There's a few there as well, so we'll press C, we'll cover those like that. Once we're happy with that, we can then press delete, and then we have the scan that we can work on. So from here, we'll go back into the brackets, and as on most of the modules within Blender, we have to name the model. This one is already done because it's a project file that was sorted before. So normally you would highlight the model, you'd click name target, and in the naming field here, it would come up target, and obviously over here as well. So what we're going to do now is we're going to put the points down to highlight the brackets. This will become evident as we move down. What we do is we put a cursor down like we normally do. So that's shift right click, and there's your cursor. And then we click on P for points, and that puts down a little point, much like the same point as we did in the alignment stage. Now we need to duplicate that, or we need to put points on all the bits that we need to take off. So there's either we can go around individually and highlight and put the cursor down and press P, or the quickest way is duplicate. Now a duplicate is very easy to do. Shift and D are the keys. So what we do is shift and key, and there you have a duplicate point. So we'll find the place which will be in the middle of the bracket, and Shift D, Shift D, Shift D, Shift D. And then we'll move the model around, Shift D. Now, what I've done there is I've clicked instead of Shift D. So what we'll have to do now is if I press Shift D now, I'm going to duplicate the model. And I don't want to duplicate the model, I want to duplicate the points. So we're going to Shift right click to put the cursor down and press P again. And then we'll go back to what we were doing, Shift D and Shift D. So there you can see we've got points on all of the areas that we want to remove the brackets. Obviously, if there was a bracket that we didn't want to move, you don't put a point on it and it won't remove it. So from here, we go into the draw line. Now what this does is it puts a circular line, as you can see, around the bracket, and everything inside that will get deleted, and we'll be left with the details of on the outside of the circle. Now obviously the circle is put down the point, and then the circle is placed around it, so it's not a perfect replica of the bracket. It doesn't know where the bracket is. We've got to move the line around to create a nice shape where the bracket is going to be. So we can do that by highlighting the vertice and pressing G for grab. This is a very familiar key within Blender. We use it a lot, grabbing vertices and grabbing points and moving things around. There's also another way of moving these vertices and encompassing the bracket. So we've done the G, so we're happy with moving the vertices around. But if we want something a little bigger and scale it, another useful option is when we highlight a vertice, we Control and L, which is linking all of those together, and then S to scale. So there we have it. We can do everything together. Now this obviously scales sort of in the same shape. So again, one would need to press a vertice and then move them so we've got a bit more of an accurate circle. One of the things we've got to look for and be careful of is to make sure that there's none of these lines have sunk below into the mesh, because if that happens, just like the arch cut, the software won't be able to cut the mesh. So this one here is a good example of where we can use the scale. So we highlight one of the vertices, Control and L, and then we S, and then we can then move the vertice, Control and Z. Remember that key if you put it in a place you're not happy with. And here again we will Control and L, and then scale this one to make it a little bit bigger. We're going to grab that. So there we have it encompassed there. So we'll work our way around there. We'll have a look at all of these. Most of these actually have come right. They're in a pretty good position. This one here, sometimes happens. When this happens, we need to get rid of this area here. It's not joined to this outline. It's a line on it separate. So we highlight the vertice, press delete on the keyboard or X, and we just delete the vertices there. And as you can see, once that one's deleted, it's all gone. So we're going to do a Control and scale, and then we'll finalize the line. Now another one of the little useful tips and hints. Sometimes the gaps between the vertices is too long, and we need to put a another one in between. So let's say we want to put a vertex in between these two. We can click on this, shift, left click on that. So we've highlighted the two. We right click on the mouse and we click subdivide, and then that obviously divides equally, puts a vertex in between the two that we've highlighted, and then we can grab that and move it. Nice little trick that. So Control and L, and then scale that. And then we're going to grab this and move this line around. So there we have very good. Again, you see, there we go. That one wouldn't join. Now, we don't know whether there's a vertex underneath there. The easiest way of finding out is put it into the transparent mode, and there we can see there's no vertex. So what we need to do is create one. So like we did before, we can highlight, shift, highlight, right click, subdivide, and that puts one there. So we can highlight that and move that around and find a good position to put it on that doesn't sink between into the scan there. Okay, so there we are. What we're going to do now is we're going to remove these brackets, and we'll see whether we actually have managed to get all our lines in the right place. So we move down and we click the trim button. Now, just like we did on our arch cuts, we need to let the software know which area of which part of the scan we want to keep. Obviously, it's that bit. So we click clean, and then that will remove all the brackets. Now, if there's any problems, we can go back and we can adjust edges. But as we move around, we can see that they're all 100%. So once we've removed the brackets, we obviously now have got these areas where the brackets were. Now, if we go into edit mode, we will be able to see very, very well that we've got lots of vertices and nothing where we removed it. That's like an edge loop cut, and they've got nothing within that. So what we need to now do is restore the geometry of the mesh. And we do that just like we've done before. We have the smooth option mode. We're going to take the dropper and we're going to put the dropper, mark it where the mesh that we want to copy. So this is where the original, and then we're going to run over these areas very quickly just to smooth them and get the mesh back. Now, there are many sculpt tools within Blender, and as we've said before, one has to keep an eye out and think, well, what is your end result? What are you trying to achieve with what you're doing? Now, you can spend as little or as much time doing this as you need to. What we'll do is we'll go into this area here. There's many different types of sculpt mode. We've got a nice flatten option here, so this can then flatten the area. We can obviously adjust the size of the brush, make it smaller. We can take on, we can take off. So there's many different options that we've got. And if we go into edit mode from here, we can see now, once it's done its bit, there we have it. You see these areas that were here, we've now repopulated the vertice in that area, and we've created a much better surface. So we'll go back into the sculpt mode, and then we'll finish off. Got the smooth option we can use, and this is actually quite a nice option. All these options will be used in various parts of Blender, especially when the crown bridge and the denture modules come out. These will be well used. We don't want to go too mad because obviously we don't really know what the surface of the teeth were like before. This gives us approximation, but certainly good enough if we wanted to make a bleaching tray on it. So once we've done that, we just click the exit, and there we have it, the bracket removal tool. These can be recontoured, but as I said, this is a great module, so we can take that off. We can easily prepare a bleaching tray for a dentist, so when he removes the brackets on a patient, he can place the bleaching tray back in and have the reservoirs already put onto them. So it's quite a useful little feature. So that's the bracket removal. What we're going to do now is we're going to open a new window, and we are going to go through the bleaching tray module. Now what we'll do is we will bring in a model so we can do a demo. We'll use the one that Blender has in its file, so B4D, and we can then go into the model designer module and sample models. We'll use the lower because it's a full lower. There's no crowns or anything to be put. There we have it. Now I only noticed this today actually when I was playing around with this, but you actually have to put a base on it if you want it to work. I'm not sure why that is, and maybe it might be software on my side, but I tried to do it like this and it wouldn't work. So if we go down here, we don't have to do arch cuts and all this sort of thing, but we can whack a lower base on it, and then we're good to go. So we'll go into the bleach option. This is a very, very simple option. There's a few little things that you need to know about this though. You've got to keep the model at the same level. None of this, because what happens is the size of the bleaching tray reservoir that you're going to put on will increase or decrease depending on the size of the model. Now, to start with, we're going to put highlight the model, obviously. We're going to click on the paint on layer, and this will open up a circular painting area, and we can then click and put our bleaching tray down. Now, as you can see there, I mean, this is a very personal thing depending on if you want to put reservoirs or not. That, in my book, is too big. So what we're going to do is we're going to take that away. We're going to make the model smaller, and we're going to put the same one back again. See, now it's obviously kept it the same size, but obviously the model's smaller. It covers more of the tooth. So let's remove that, and then we're going to scroll in quite a bit, and we're going to do it again. So we're going to add some bleaching. Oh, hold on a second. Let's just step back a few bits. It's obviously got confused because I'm messing around with it. Right, there we are. So we're going to remove these areas that we put on. I'm going to make the... Oh, let's just angle that and get rid of that. Going to move the model to a larger position. We're going to click the add button, and we're going to put it on, and there we have it. Now this thickness business is 2 millimeters, so if we flip the model over, it's 2 millimeters in this direction. So that's again a personal thing. If you feel that's too big, you can reduce it. Now once we've got the area that we're looking for, which is on this to me is a much more acceptable. We can then go around and we can click. Now we have to be careful we don't make the model bigger or smaller, because then it will keep the bleaching area the same. Now on the molars, you can actually paint on like that. Keep your finger down on the mouse and work around. Now you can see, because I scrolled the mouse and made the model smaller, you can see the effect it has. So I'm going to go back a few steps. I'm going to, oops, right. There we go. And do that there. There you go. It's very tempting, and I still do it. And then you realize, I mean, if it's small amounts, it doesn't really matter. Wipe that across there, wipe that across there. Normally I wouldn't go back that far, but for the purpose of this exercise. Right, so once you've got all the spots on there, you click on the join and there we have it. The bleaching tray parts are joined, and it really is as simple as that. There's nothing much to it. So that's sort of the end of this little short video. I hope it sort of gives you an idea of what you can achieve in a very, very short space of time. I've had a lot of discussions with people that have this software and they use it on a regular basis, and they still find it's easier just to put light cure dots down on the model before they do a vacuum form stent. And it's always a case of weighing up the quickest possible way round to get the end result. And if it's a combination of the CAD and combination of the analog way of doing it, well, that's fine. If it works, then it works. So thanks very much for watching that. And next week, I'll bring you some more details on the wax up module and go through that just to give you an overview of what it can do and what you can achieve with it. And hopefully give you an idea of whether it will something that you'll find interesting. So thanks very much for watching. Please subscribe to the channel. You'll get the updates as and when I do them. And we'll see you next time. Cheers.